December 11th, 2005. 6 miles off the coast of San Francisco. A 50-ton humpback whale is floating near the surface. She's barely moving. Hundreds of pounds of crab trap lines are wrapped around her tail, her fins, her mouth. She's been struggling for hours. A team of divers gets in the water. They swim directly toward her, the most dangerous animal in that ocean. And she goes still. She doesn't thrash. She doesn't flee. She just waits. For the next hour, those divers cut through the ropes with curved knives, working around a creature that could kill any of them with one accidental sweep of her tail. What happens next is something marine biologists still don't have a clean explanation for. She doesn't leave. She comes back and circles each diver one by one, nudging them gently. The lead diver, James Mosquito, said, "It felt to me like it was thanking us." Now, here's the question scientists have been asking ever since. Was that gratitude? Or did she just stop fearing them because the threat was gone? And more importantly, do animals actually know when a human is trying to help them? Before we can understand what happened with that whale, we need to understand what humans look like to the rest of the animal kingdom by default. To most wild animals, you're not neutral. You're not a neighbor. You're the most dangerous predator that has ever existed. In 2019, researcher Justin Serassi and colleagues at the University of California published a landmark study in Ecology Letters. They played audio recordings of predators to pumas, deer, and other mammals in the wild, lion roars, bear sounds, dog barks. Then they played recordings of human voices. The animals fled faster from human voices than from apex predators, significantly faster. Surassi's team called it the super predator effect. Humans have killed wildlife at rates so far outside anything natural selection prepared animals for that over evolutionary time, many species developed a fear response to us that exceeds the response to any natural predator. That's what a human means to a wild animal the first time it encounters one. So when a whale, an animal with a nervous system built to treat our species as a lethal threat, goes still and lets humans cut ropes from its body for an hour, something unusual is happening in that nervous system. The question is what? Scientists have a name for what happens in the nervous system when an animal is trapped, restrained, and unable to escape. It's called tonic immobility. When the defense cascade, the neurological sequence that runs from freeze to flee to fight, runs out of options, the brain triggers a final state. The animal goes still, heart rate drops, muscle tone shifts. The animal from the outside can look almost calm. Research published in BioRave in 2021 showed that during tonic immobility, EEG readings actually show increased theta wave activity. The brain is in a state of hyperarousal, even as the body goes still. The animal's nervous system is running at maximum threat processing capacity. So, in theory, when the Farallon whale went still, that could have been tonic immobility, pure neurological shutdown under extreme stress. But here's the problem with that explanation. Tonic immobility doesn't end with the animal circling its rescuers. When tonic immobility breaks, the animal runs. It doesn't come back. It doesn't nudge each person individually. So something else happened in that whale after the ropes came off. Something that doesn't fit the standard threat response model. And the reason it might fit is what scientists found inside that whale's brain. In 2007, neurobiologist Lori Marino and colleagues at Emory University published a study in PLOS Biology that forced a serious reconsideration of cetacean intelligence. They found spindle neurons, also called von Economo neurons, in the brains of humpback whales. Until that discovery, these neurons were thought to exist only in humans and great apes. They're associated with rapid social intuition, emotional processing, and something researchers carefully describe as empathy-related cognition. Spindle neurons are what allow a social being to rapidly assess the intentions of others, to distinguish threat from help, aggression from care. They're also found in elephants, and dolphins, and orcas. The common thread: all of these are species with documented long-term social memory, complex family structures, and notably just documented cases of unusual behavior following human rescue interactions. What Marino's finding meant is this: the neural architecture required to read social intention exists in these animals. Whether they're using it on us is a different question. Let's look at what animals actually do with information about humans. In 2014, behavioral ecologist Karen McComb of the University of Sussex published a study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that is hard to look away from. Her team went to Amboseli National Park in Kenya. They played audio recordings to 47 different elephant family groups. The recordings were of two groups of people saying the same phrase: the Maasai, a cattle-herding people who have periodic, sometimes fatal conflict with elephants over water and grazing land, and the Kamba, farmers who live in the same region but historically pose little threat to elephants. When they heard the Maasai voices, herds bunched together nearly twice as tightly. They smelled the air. They moved their calves to the center. When they heard the Kamba voices, much less reaction. They couldn't see these people. They were just voices from a hidden speaker. But the elephants had built over time a mental model of which humans mean danger and which don't. That's not a reflex. That's a classification. That's memory being applied to a threat assessment in real time. And this brings us to the research question that makes this even more interesting. Because an animal that can classify humans as dangerous versus not dangerous has the cognitive infrastructure to potentially do something finer-grained, classifying a human as trying to help. Researchers at Frontiers in Psychology published a review in 2020 examining exactly this: the role of animal cognition in human-wildlife interactions. Their conclusion was careful but pointed. Animals in environments where humans take multiple different roles, sometimes threatening, sometimes neutral, sometimes beneficial, show evidence of developing flexible cognitive responses to human behavior, not just fixed fear reactions. In other words, it's not all hardwired. Some of it is learned, assessed, updated. We already know crows can remember specific human faces that threatened them and pass that information to offspring who never personally encountered that person. Research by John Marsluff at the University of Washington documented this directly. That's not instinct. That's cultural transmission of social knowledge. If crows can pass on that face means danger in Lonarna, the logical question is whether any animal can register that behavior means help. The honest scientific answer right now is we don't know for certain. But the behavioral evidence keeps accumulating. The Farallon whale held still for an hour during an extremely dangerous procedure. When she was freed, she didn't flee. She came back. A humpback whale rescued off Majorca in 2022. Same story. The marine biologist who cut the net said she knew we were there to help her and she just relaxed. That could be projection. Humans project intentions onto animals constantly, but these are people trained not to anthropomorphize, and they're still describing the same pattern. So where does the science actually land? Here's what we can say with confidence. Wild animals are not passive recipients of information about humans. They actively classify us by voice, by scent, by color, by behavior. Several species, elephants, cetaceans, corvids, have the neurological architecture for complex social processing, including the ability to make rapid, intuitive judgments about intent. What we cannot say with confidence is that any of these animals consciously understand that a human is trying to help them the way you or I would understand it. What the science suggests is something subtler and maybe more interesting. Some animals may be doing a version of what they've always done with their own species, reading behavioral signals and updating their threat assessment in real time. When a human stops behaving like a predator and starts behaving like something that reduces your pain, an animal's nervous system may register that shift. James Mosquito, the diver who was nudged by the whale off the Farallones, said something that I keep coming back to. He said it felt like she was saying thank you. And maybe the most honest thing science can tell us right now is we don't know if she was. But we know her nervous system had the hardware to perceive something was different. We know she stayed. We know she came back. What was happening inside her? And that's still an open question.